Hello, junior economists. Here we are again. We're talking this time about Chapter 5, Lesson 2 in the theory of production in our supply chapter. So we are looking from the point of view again of the producer. And why I used coffee, I don't know, because I felt like it. All right. So here we go. Here's our learning targets. Our question, our essential question for this lesson is, why is the production function useful for making business decisions? I want you to write that down at the top of your notes. I also want you to write these down as well. The SWABAT. Students will be able to, first of all, explain how production affects supply elasticity. Then explain how the production function is used to make business decisions. Discuss total and marginal product at different production periods, and summarize all three stages of production. All right, those are our goals. So make sure you have those written down so you know what we are trying to accomplish through going through this lecture. Okay, so here we go. What is the production function? The production function is a figure. It's just a number. It's a number that shows how total output changes when the amount of one single variable input, usually labor, changes while all other inputs are held constant. Okay, so what are the inputs? What are we talking about? What's an input? Okay, input are the factors of production. If you remember, the factors of production were land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs, right? Okay, so anytime any one of those four changes, we look at the production function, okay, and see how our output changes. What is our output? Our output is the products, the total number of products we produce within our business, our factory, our firm, whatever you want to call it, our company. Okay. So this little chart, we're going to see it later. Notice how we have here, when we have zero labor, we have no workers, nobody working. We have how much output? Nothing. There's nobody there to make anything, so our output is zero. When we add one employee, that one employee can make a total of 3 items. So our total output with one employee is 3. If we add a second worker, our total output increases to 8. Okay. If we add a third employee, the total output increases to 14. With 4 employees, 19, so on and so forth. Notice though how we start out, big change, big change, big change, big change, smaller change, much smaller change, really small change. Now we're going in reverse. Okay, so once we've added that 9th and 10th employee, notice how our total output goes down. We're going to talk about why that happens and how these trends occur. All right. So, like I said, looking at that chart there, this is a little bit different example, and this is more for you to write down in your notes than that chart is. Okay. So using labor as the variable input, there are no workers, nothing is produced, right? So with one worker, we are able to produce, in this example, I use 7 items, okay? 7 items a day. If we add a second, that output increases to 20. We add a third employee, that output increases to 40, and so on and so forth. So that's how our total output increases based on changing that one variable of adding more employees. So we tend to look at and focus on what is known as a short run. So a short run is a short production period, a very small production period. It's very brief, so brief that only that one variable input can be changed. Just a change in adding another worker. And that's all that we can do. So that's the short run. Okay. Now, a long run is obviously a longer period of time, and it's long enough for the company to make an adjustment in the quantities of all of its productive resources, so including capital. So we're increasing or changing, adjusting the amount of land, labor, and capital, and maybe even adding a partner, so adding another entrepreneur to our production system or to our company. Okay, so let's say that a company that reduces its labor force today may also have to close down some factories later on. The factory closings are the long run changes, okay? The changes over the long period of time. So not only are they going to have to change the number of employees, but they're going to be changing the land because they've got to sell off the factory. They got to change capital. They're selling off and getting rid of and shutting down some of their tools and supplies and things like that, and possibly even getting rid of an entrepreneur, getting rid of a partner. So the total product, again, is the total output produced by the company. Once we know the total product, then we can go for our next measure, which is called marginal product. Okay, so marginal product is each extra output, okay, that added output or the change in the total product caused by adding that one more unit of a variable, like adding one more worker. Okay, so in the example that I gave, one worker produced 7 units, okay, or 7 items. Okay, when we added a second, that total output went to 20. So the marginal product from 7 to 20 is 13. How do we get that? Well, 20 minus 7 is 13. So marginal product is the difference in production from adding that one more employee. Okay, so adding that second worker, the difference in total output is the difference between output with one employee and output with 2 employees. Okay, so 20 minus 7 gets us 13. Simple math. Okay. So have you ever heard the phrase or the idiom, too many cooks in the kitchen ruins the broth, or something kind of close to that? There's a few different variations of that. Well, that's what this image over here off to, as you're looking at this, to your left is. You've got a whole bunch of chefs there, and how many are actually doing anything? Well, it looks like really only 3. So you've got this guy is stirring, this guy is adding maybe some seasonings, you've got this guy right here is pouring something into this dish, and this guy is looking like he's maybe going to try to stir something. He's kind of reaching in, and everyone else is kind of just standing around watching. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that are doing anything. One is really the only one. I mean, this one is really only doing anything effective. So there is a point in production in which you have so many employees that output begins to decline. Okay, you've got all of these people crowding into this one space, and this guy is probably going to take him longer to get done what he needs to get done with these 3 other yahoos trying to help him out. And who knows how many others are going to try to reach in and help him. Okay, so versus this one here where you've got 1, 2, 3 chefs. They're in 3 different locations doing 3 different things. Okay, you've got this first one here in the front who's adding stuff to a pot. You've got this one back here that's chopping things up. This one back here that's chopping up some other things. This, which one shows better efficiency? Obviously this one. Okay, so how can output decline? Well, there's lack of space. Here we have lack of space. Here we have just enough space for just enough employees. Access to tools. Here everybody has their own tools. Here everybody's trying to use the same tools that are all sitting around right there. Socializing. Some of these guys look like are sitting back here. They're just watching. This guy's like looking at something in his hand. I don't know. These guys are way back there in the back. This one looks like he's almost trying to pull this guy out of the way. And there's a lot of problems there. So to demonstrate what this looks like, we have 3 stages of production. Stage 1 is increasing returns, stage 2 is diminishing returns, and stage 3 is negative returns. All right, so increasing marginal return means that in stage 1 of production, the marginal product for each additional worker increases. So the number of products each additional worker adds to the total output is increasing. Okay, this is because as more workers are added, they can cooperate with each other. They can maybe specialize in certain operations to make better use of the equipment, their skills, their abilities, and it's very efficient. So each new worker added contributes more to the total output than the worker before them did. That's increasing marginal product. Okay, so the total output is rising at an increased rate. Okay, so companies usually don't realize that they're in stage 1 of production function until they reach stage 2. At that time, they see the change in the marginal product. Okay, so during stage 1, companies only know that for each new worker they hire, output is increasing. Okay, so that stage 1 is here in the yellow, okay, all the way up here really to number 4 and even 5. This is our, okay, it's increasing, see 3, 4, or 3, 5, 6, okay, 6 here again between 14, oh, that's 5, sorry, so that's where it starts to decrease. So the yellow right here is our stage 1, okay, from 4 to 8 is our stage 2, and we'll see that in just a minute. So stage 2 is called decreasing marginal return. So that's where in that chart the difference between the workers' production keeps decreasing. Excuse me. So in stage 2, total production keeps growing. However, the marginal returns are decreasing. So by hiring a 20th employee, the marginal return for employee was at 20, or for employee 20 was 16, but with the 21st employee being hired, then the marginal return decreases to 12. Okay, so that means that instead of increasing total production by over 16, it's only being increased by 12. So with each additional employee added, the marginal return decreases until it reaches 0 or a negative. Okay, so here's stage 1, increasing in constant returns. Okay, so here, 1 employee, 24, then 72, 138. Here's the difference. Okay, so obviously the difference between 0 and 24 is 24. The difference between 24 and 72 is 48. The difference between 72 and 138 is 66. So notice how these numbers keep increasing until you get right here. And now they've become stagnant. So now that takes us into, okay, diminishing returns. So the marginal product is decreasing. But notice the total production is still going up. Total product is still going up. Even though the marginal product is going down, total product is decreasing. So 7 through 10, these employees, they're all adding, right? They're adding 78. They're adding 66 products, 48 products, 24 products to the total, okay? But once we reach stage 3, notice the 11th employee, all of a sudden negative. We go from a total output of 600 to an output of 594. We add that 12th employee, we drop our marginal product by 42. So we go down to 552 total product output, okay? So we're going downward. So what do we need to do here at this point once we get into stage 3? Well, let's talk about that. So stage 3 occurs, again, when the marginal product of each additional worker is negative and the total output begins to decrease. So what do companies do at stage 3? Probably you figured it out by now. They lay off workers. Or they could expand their facilities. If they've got enough capital, they could expand their facilities so they could buy more capital. But that's long run, right? That's long run. So in the long run, they can change by adding. In the short run, they're going to have to decrease that variable input. All right, so we'll discuss more about that later on. That's the end for today, folks. So, that's all, and we'll see you next time.